Tonight on the All Kinds of Weather forecast, we have linebacker Derek Wingo joins the show, gives us a preview about the Gators' upcoming season, and talks about his experience as a Florida Gator. This is the All Kinds of Weather forecast. And welcome into another episode of the All Kinds of Weather forecast. I'm your host, Chris James, alongside my co-host, Neil Schulman. And tonight we have special guest, linebacker Derek Wingo joins the All Kinds of Weather forecast to talk about his experience as a Florida Gator. But before we get to all that, please make sure if you are watching our show on YouTube to hit like and subscribe, as well as leave a comment down below. Tells us how we're doing and helps reach all of Gator Nation. So Derek, thanks for coming on the show tonight. We really appreciate your time. How's everything going thus far with getting into the spring ball and all that?
Yeah, so thanks for having me, of course. And then, today was day one of summer training. So it was pretty cool to get back out there, get back out in the weight program and some of the on-field running. Super excited with, our strength program transition and the kind of path that we've been taking, all the guys that we've added to our team. So it's been really well. So to get guys back in the facility, back in the schedule of things, and classes started today, I'm super excited for it.
That's awesome. Well, we can't wait to see. And obviously, I'm sure everybody got really excited seeing that kickoff time, 3:30 in the Swamp versus Miami as well. So it's becoming a little bit real now, 4 months out from that first game. So the fans, the players, I'm sure the excitement is building in Gainesville right now. But all right, so we'll go ahead and get into some quick lightning round questions, and then we'll go ahead and ask you some of the other ones we have for you. So, Derek, we asked this of all of our guests that come on the show. And the first one is, why did you become a Gator?
So I actually became a Gator because, for one, I wanted to stay in Florida, close to my family. I love the weather. I mean, you can't beat it. It's not snowing or anything crazy around here. And then number three would definitely just be the alumni and the backing base that the University of Florida has, the opportunities not just on the field but off the field. So to be able to have that and the different connections that University of Florida alumni and everybody has here was kind of my main decision when it came down to it.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it definitely helps to kind of stay close to home and have that family members always there for you, rooting you on. So definitely understand that. So talk about your favorite memory as playing for the Gators. What would that be? I know there's probably a lot to choose from, but in your 4 years thus far, what's been your favorite memory?
In my 4 years, I think my favorite memory, I think I probably have two. Definitely was in 2020 when we beat Georgia over in Jacksonville. That game was electric. So that was definitely one that I'll always remember. And I think a more recent one definitely was this past season, coming back in South Carolina game. I think, that was something that we haven't seen in a Gators team in a while, to be able to, persevere and really kind of put it all together. The enthusiasm from both sides of the ball, being able to execute, compete, and handle business. So that was, I think, a huge moment, not just for me, but for the team as a whole. So it was something that I look back at a lot, to see that, trending in the right direction, and then just understanding that, hey, I mean, that was a big time win on an away game, playing an SEC opponent. So that was definitely one to remember.
Definitely something you guys can build upon for the next season. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit later on in this interview, but gives you that confidence next season you can overcome adversity on the field when it does come.
Absolutely.
So what is your favorite Gator jersey color combo? This is sort of the very polarizing question. A lot of fans, players that come on the show have very different points of view on this, but what is your favorite jersey color combo?
So my favorite one was actually the throwbacks. We actually didn't wear them last season. We wore them the season previously, but those were my favorite. I loved the black uniforms this year, and then I always just loved going with the traditional blue on white.
So you're more of a traditional guy, it sounds like, with the exception of the black, all black uniforms.
So what about on the road when the Gators have to wear white?
I mean, I like the white, but I think the all white is definitely pretty clean.
Okay. Stormtrooper look. I like it. All right. So you were teammates with Kyle Trask, Kadarius Toney, Kyle Pitts, Damian Pierce. Fantastic offense in 2020. You talked about that memory in Jackson when we beat the Dogs that season. And that defense definitely had some dogs as well. Ventrell Miller, Zach Carter, Kyer Elam, James Houston, all playing in the NFL right now. What was it like to play with those guys, and just, I guess, that overall experience with the team?
Yeah, definitely. So when I first came in, my first actual rep at the University of Florida was going against Kyle Pitts. So that's something that's pretty funny that I always look back at. But, when you look at it like a complete offense, leadership from Kyle Trask and what they had just centered around them to be able to put it all together. I mean, that was just kind of amazing to see and also to go against. And then when you look back on the defensive side, amazing leadership from Ventrell Miller also being a linebacker. So that's something definitely I look back at, and as well as still stay in contact with him to today. We go back and forth all the time with, what he's doing over in Jacksonville, and then what I'm doing over here. Still gives me tips and pointers, and still messing around with each other. So it's pretty fun. Those relationships never die. So I think that's something that also comes along with being at the University of Florida, is just having a relationship with guys, no matter where they go in the league or how long they play. Guys still stay in contact and are able to kind of look after each other.
Yeah, that's definitely a theme that I've picked up on. I mean, I'm close with James. I mean, he's talking about you all the time as a guy that I'm looking forward to seeing step up and be a big piece of the Gators this coming year. I'm sure you're proud of him as well, seeing what he's been doing with the Lions. Obviously, that brotherhood is something that just can't be matched outside of the game of football. But to me, the 2020 Gator football team is always going to be a really good case study of so many different things working out together, but just not quite enough of them that the Gators could get to the championship level. So that said, though, I'm always a believer in learning from the past and being better because of past failures, mistakes, whatever you want to call them. So 2-part question. In your own words, what would you say was the undoing of that team? And then what would you say that you personally have learned from what went wrong with that team in the end?
Yeah, so that was definitely a pretty, awkward situation, awkward season with it being COVID and everything like that. Having meetings separated doing a lot of stuff on Zoom, camp starting late, not necessarily being a full camp and then going into the season. With all the talent that we had, it was, we were able to pull it together, right? Guys were able to still compete, play at the highest level. Kyle Trask doing an amazing job putting up numbers on the offense with all of his weapons, and the defense playing a lot of lights out football. So, that season obviously is definitely one to remember. But when you look back, you see, why didn't we cross that bridge, that little tedious mark where you become that next team rather than just an 8-4 team. So, I would say definitely just being consistent. You're getting a lot of wins. You're excited. Just being able to take it one step at a time. And we still harp on that today, taking things one thing at a time, one game at a time. And I think that was kind of where it was going. We were having a lot of success. We had 1 or 2 games that kind of we thought we should have won. But the outcome just wasn't there. But I think that we probably just let that get to us a little bit more, so that we weren't able to finish as strong. But yeah.
So, it's difficult to look back and think about what was and what almost was, and then what wasn't. But again, it's all about learning and moving on and being better because of what happened. So I guess kind of the exact same question, but about the last 3 years, I would say very, very different circumstances in each of 2021, 2022, and 2023. What have you learned from each of those last 3 seasons, and why are you now better because of having gone through them?
Yeah, so my biggest thing is when I look back at these last 3 seasons, there was a lot of changes going on. We'd have 30 new guys every single year, with guys going to the transfer portal, guys coming in. So, it was hard to build those relationships with guys who had just been there for, 2 months before you go into the season and things like that. And then there also comes to play the experience of playing, right? Guys who've been on the field for a long period of time, guys who played a lot of snaps. And then it's just kind of about that bond on the field, what you guys do off the field. So it was definitely learning and understanding how the chemistry actually works. The chemistry is a real thing where it comes to play on the field. So, the past 3 years weren't exactly where we wanted to be, but I've been super excited about this team because not only is our experience going into the season doubled to what it was last year, we've added so many guys in the transfer portal that are not just that don't just have that experience, but also have that leadership. And the biggest thing that I always harp on, after practices, when I talk to a lot of the guys and when I talk to Coach Napier, is basically just like having pride for the University of Florida. Having pride every time you're at practice. You're walking around the facility, you're walking around the campus and the university, and just taking it more as a serious note and understanding how much it means to be a Florida Gator and doing all the right things and doing things the right way. So I think that's what this team has been able to separate so far, with just, not letting those little things knock you off, or having a bad attitude and things like that. A lot of guys checking each other and making sure that you uphold that standard. I think that's the difference between this 2024 team, is just understanding the pride and all the little things that goes into it to be able to build a successful team.
And Derek, that pride you talk about really, I think, goes to the culture that Billy Napier has really tried to build. That's become a staple in his program, and now going into his third year in Gainesville. And we see it, we believe, especially hearing a statement just like that. Neil did a great in-depth piece of kind of that change in that culture. I know you contributed to that when he released that last year. But on the other hand, the first 2 years under Coach Napier, it just didn't produce necessarily the results that I'm sure you guys as a team didn't want. Certainly the fans don't enjoy. So no, we know the culture is there. What do you think is that missing piece? And maybe you kind of alluded to it already, but then the last 2 seasons under Napier that this 2024 team is going to have that can finally turn that tide.
Yeah, so I think probably the biggest missing pieces that I think that we finally kind of put together is obviously having a solid foundation in the strength program. We've done an amazing job, and if you guys were able to see the results of what Coach Tyler Miles has been able to do with when it comes from the body fat percentages all the way to the muscle mass being gained just in the past 4 months is insane. Nothing like I've ever seen before. So, obviously that translates to the field, and then it's just understanding, your schedule, your day-to-day things, keeping it on time and keeping it the same for guys. So once they're finally used to it, getting into all the different walkthroughs, getting in the film room and understanding that, it comes a lot when you're becoming a college athlete. So that's something that we've been harping on some of the younger guys. It's a lot to uphold, and managing it with, your school schedule, your practices, your meeting, all those different things. So when you're able to finally kind of get a grasp of that, especially at a young age for some of these new guys that are coming in, that's when it starts to click and things starts to come together. And I think the biggest thing that I've seen, when you stay after practice, is you're seeing guys, get some extra work in. You're seeing guys go back in the weight room and catch balls on the jugs, and then check out the training room after practice and before practice. You're seeing guys doing all this injury prevention stuff and the cold tub, the hot tub, sitting in with the trainers, creating a plan with the trainers and even in the nutrition staff. And that's something when you sit down and when you become an older athlete, you really understand how to take care of your body. So that goes a long way when you're playing a long season and it's in the SEC, you're playing big time games, those things matter. So when you're taking care of your body, doing all the right things, and then that just goes back to the pride thing, that's able to put together all the right pieces, having the leadership in the right positions, that's able to make your team long lasting and successful.
Really quick before we go to the next question, you talked about Tyler Miles and the impact that he's had. Of course, he wasn't the original guy that was supposed to take over the program, and there was some transition there. How was the team able to adjust so quickly on the fly with a couple of changes there in a matter of weeks?
Yeah, so we were super excited when Coach Fitzpatrick first came in. He kind of set a little bit of a foundation. He wasn't there for too long, but he had a business and a family decision. So we were able to respect that and understand, what he did was the best for him. And sometimes that happens. That happens in the real world. So you have to just kind of take that with a maturity level of understanding that you got to move on from it. So I think Tyler Miles was able to do an amazing job with being able to kind of set that message off to the players, and then basically keep that plan going and add more. He was very straightforward with us for the first day he left. Hey, he was like, hey, look, guys, this is our situation. And this is what's going on. You guys can either take it as a burden and let it sit on you guys for a while, or you can either, bounce back, understand that we're here to work and this is what we're going to do. And if you're not going to hop on the ship, you can take off. So, that's the message. And that's a message, not just in the training room, not just in the strength, in the weight room. That's the message overall as a program. So I think that's one thing that Coach Napier has done a really good job. If you're not ready to get on the ship with everybody else and understand what we're going to do and what we're putting together, then there's other places that you can go. So we've been super excited and with all the guys that we do have, and they're able to buy into the program, and that's exactly what we need.
Shifting gears a little bit, culture off the field. One of the big main programs that Napier has started at UF has been the GatorMade initiative. So for those that may not be as familiar with it, can you describe to the fans what that actually is and how it's made an impact on you and other players?
Yeah, so GatorMade does actually an amazing job. That's, Savannah Bailey, Diane LeBon, Stephen Ali, and Brandon Spikes is now even working in that area. So that's pretty cool. So what they do is basically are able to create that off the field plan for you as a college athlete. So being able to get you in touch with all these different companies, CEOs, and kind of setting up that business side, and then just creating a plan for you overall with your class schedules and working with Hawkins and understanding that there's so many different opportunities, and that goes back to what I said earlier with the alumni, the opportunities, and the resources that you have as being a Gator. So they do a really good job with putting you in connections with those people that can set you up for the future, even when your career's over. So I've been fortunate enough to go on the past 3 trips. That was to Greece, South Africa, and now we just got back from Japan actually 2 days ago. And I know they do a series of other trips where that's traveling to LA. They went to the Nike headquarters, all these different things where guys are able to have this experience talking to guys in the business world and the CEOs and things that help them create those connections to be able to have a life after football. So I think they do a really good job, and that's something that a lot of programs don't have. So for us to have that and be able to understand and kind of buy in even to that, that can help you be really successful when it all comes said and done. So that's a program that has been absolutely outstanding for us, and I think is going to continue just to grow.
Yeah, I mean that experience in Japan is something that obviously is not offered by every school in the country. I'd say it's a unique experience, certainly for you. It's not like Gator football players go to Japan or South Korea or South Africa or Greece all the time. But I mean, you and I have been talking about this for a few weeks now. You sent me the itinerary for your trip, and I legitimately got jealous when I looked at it because I'm always fascinated by other cultures. Just to name a few things you did, you took a boat cruise to the Hakone Shrine. You went to a traditional Japanese fish market. You took sumo wrestling lessons. You learned a little bit of Japanese along the way. You had some business courses, I think, on international entrepreneurship. You took a sushi making class, and just that's just a very, very select few things of the many, many things you did. So we want to be respectful of your time and not keep you for 2 hours. So if you wouldn't mind giving me just 5 highlights of your trip and give me like a 2 or 3 sentence explanation as to why each one stood out to you.
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, when you travel across the world, especially to a place like, Tokyo, Japan, the culture is completely different. And I think that was more of the trip, is just understanding that life is a lot bigger than just where you are in Gainesville, Florida. So I think that's pretty cool to see, how people live their lives differently, how they, their beliefs are different, how they go to day work and whatever they might be doing is just so much different. And then we had an opportunity to just kind of go in their business settings and walk around it and get a tour of it and understand how some of their work goes and talk to a few of the people and see what their day-to-day schedule is like and what their approach was and how they got to where they were, and then comparing it to how people in America get to where they want to be. So I think that was super cool to see that aspect of life and just understanding, a lot of us have the same aspirations and goals, and sometimes it just takes a little bit different for each individual to get to where they want to go. So, I mean, that was definitely a cool part to see it. Going to the fish market was something that was, blew my mind, because you're seeing the craziest things that you think you might only see on TV. So it was cool to see a lot of different foods, the different things that they choose on their palate. It's not necessarily exactly what I'd eat, but it's cool to give it a try and see what it's like. And then definitely the sumo wrestling thing. That was pretty cool. We're all psyched up to go into that. We previously saw the video, I think it was actually the week before, of Michael Parsons in there with one of his buddies. So I thought that was the coolest thing. So we're all psyched up to do that. We got in there and you saw Rod Kearney and Sap get in there and get some lessons with them and get to wrestle them a little bit. So that hyped up the guys. And they were trying to get some tips and pointers of leverage of the body and understanding and all stuff like that. Tried to recruit him over back to Gainesville to play a little bit O-line and D-line, but yeah, just getting over there to see the culture and just how different things are, and honestly, that goes back to each trip that I've been on. When we went to South Africa, you talk about being grateful for what you have, and and understanding your platform and all those certain different things. So yeah, these trips do an amazing job with just showing you different parts of the world, being grateful for what you have, and then just, being able to take it all in. And it goes back to what I said, knowing that life is a lot bigger than, what it is here just for you in Gainesville.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the many lessons I think football can teach you itself, not even just the GatorMade program, but you're one of 11 guys on defense, and there are 11 other guys on the other side of the ball, and then there's special teams, and then there are coaches. It's a massive conglomerate of people all coming together, each doing their different jobs to help make the team succeed. And that's a pretty good transition into the football side of things. You are indeed going to be playing football for the Gators this fall. We're not just here to talk about your trip to Japan. So one of the things that most intrigued me this offseason was bringing over Coach Ron Roberts. And the reason that intrigued me so much is because he's got so much experience with the quote unquote creeper concept that Coach Austin Armstrong loves. And personally, as an outsider looking in, I like the creeper concept. I'm of the opinion that the creeper defense can yield some big results if it's executed well. Obviously, you know a lot more about it than me. So two questions. One, without giving away any trade secrets, tell me a little bit more about how the X's and O's of that creeper defense works. And two, can you just explain a little bit more generally about the impact that Ron Roberts has had so far?
Yeah. So, the creeper defense, actually a lot of teams in college football run it. A lot of teams in the NFL run it. And it's kind of basic, but can be a little bit complicated. When you look at the creeper defense, it's basically learning all the different ways that you can rush four, but not your traditional four on the defensive lineman. You got guys coming from the star position, from the safety. It's guys rotating down. It's all the different ways that you're able to come out with kind of the same look and be able to show a lot of different things. So I think that goes right into, what Coach Ron Roberts has been able to do, with his knowledge and his understanding of the game mixed with Coach Armstrong's creativity. I think those are two great pairs together. They're going to be able to create a lot of different schemes for this defense and, understanding it. And Coach Roberts has been really, really good for the linebackers. He's been able to break it down with the X and O's on the board. He's very understanding. And then a lot of it was originally his defense. He came from Baylor, then came from Auburn, and he's been around a lot of good football players. So it's good to be able to get his side of things and his point of view, and then just him being very coachable and patient with us. I think him being patient with us and understanding that a lot of guys learn in different ways, I think is the best thing that you can have as a coach. You can't just stick to one way of teaching. You have to understand in the college football world, it's some of these guys are 17 to 22, 23 years old, and you have to understand that guys learn in different ways. So when you're able to break that down and just understand that, that's what you need to be able to make your team successful and be able to have depth on your roster when all guys understand what they're doing and not just what you're doing, what the guys around you are doing. So I think Coach Ron Roberts has done an amazing job at that. And I think they're going to be able to do a really good job with him and Coach Armstrong with being able to kind of dial things up and get it going.
Staying on the same side of the ball, different positions, we have Will Harris, Gerald Chapman have come in this offseason. Obviously not your position group, but from an outsider's perspective, the defense is a unit as a whole, and you have to communicate with the defensive line and the secondary respectively, so their development is critical. What kinds of impacts have you seen from those two particular coaches and since they've come to Gainesville and how that's impacted the whole defense?
Yeah, you talk about Coach Chapman, a guy who gets after it. He's a guy who's going to get after the D line, and he's working those guys a lot. And the biggest thing that I've seen from him too is, when he's screaming at his guys and getting after, he always, when they run over to the next period, he'll tap us and be like, "Hey, that's for you guys." He lets us know that he's getting on them hard just to be able to make our lives a lot easier. So I think that goes back to us working as a unit. I think just not even the players understanding that we're working on it as a unit, but the coaches knowing that each individual position needs to be on the same page for us to be successful as an 11 out in the field. So, Coach Chapman does a great job. Coach Harris does a great job with developing his DBs. They do a lot of technique things where, they're being able to come down from a cover two standpoint, be able to make that open field tackle. They're doing a lot of coverage aspects, where they could be able to flip their hips and get in the hole in the right position where they should be. So I think that, that overall relationship with, Coach Chapman and Coach Harris and Coach Armstrong, Coach Roberts, all of those coaches together, as well as with their players, I think that creates a healthy atmosphere. That creates a healthy team, a healthy defense. And then also creates, from the perspective of the players, a want to, and that goes back to that same pride thing I said before. The want to be successful, the want to be able to make a play, the want to of understanding that I need to do my job so that others can be in the right position to make a play. Understanding that you're always not going to be the guy that's going to make the play every single time, but if you're able to stay in the right gap and be in the right position, the guy next to you is going to make that play. And then when it can be the same thing, vice versa, when he's able to, execute and stay on the same page, then it's going to be your turn to make the play. So I think that's really what it goes into with having a great defense is, everyone runs the same kinds of defense. Everyone runs, the same kind of blitzes. They might just call it something different. But at the end of the day, it goes back to who can execute it at the highest level, who can be physical and who can execute it at the highest level. And I think, having these relationship with all these new coaches and all these new players is going to be that exact turning point for us as a Gators defense.
Well, from those last couple of answers, I can definitely see why Paul Feinbaum saw you as a threat to take over his job. You could definitely make it as an analyst on the SEC network. Well, so Florida took a lot of transfers this cycle, especially on defense, just to name a couple of them. Trequarze Bridges, Joey Slackman, DJ Douglas, all guys noted for their IQ and their football brains. But there are so many to pick from. So give me 3 or 4 transfers, or however many you want to give me, that you think are going to be most likely to have an instant impact for the Gators this coming season.
I'll take them all. Yeah, I think I'll take every single one of them. I think they've done an amazing job. Another guy like Asa Turner from Washington, he's done a great job with, being a leadership and being a smart guy on the field. Quez Bridges, he's been doing a great job on the outside and also at the safety position. And then when you just look at a guy like DJ Douglas, a guy who's physical, can come down to the box, make the right plays, who's a great communicator on the field, who's able to do all those kinds of things. I think we've added so much talent. You look at Pup Howard, a guy who's big and physical. Another guy added to the linebacker position who's doing a great job. And we have so many guys that I think that we've added that are selfless. Sorry. And I think that's huge. When you come in as a transfer, you get those guys who are selfish, who come in expecting all these different things and not really understanding the culture and just kind of are there for themselves. And I think that's not the case for us. I think we've added the right guys in this program who understand the standard and understand that, this is a team and this is, you have to buy into the program and buy into the players and build those relationships. And I think that's what's been, an eye opener for me with the transfers in this past cycle. That's the difference between the cycle and the like the previous years. These guys care. They want to win football games and they want to contribute and they want to do exactly what they're asked of. They obviously, everyone wants to play more. Everyone wants to, be the guy on the team, but they understand that they need to do their job and do what they're asked of us for us to be successful. When you trust your coaches and trust that Coach Napier's kind of put the right guys in the right position to be able to make those big time decisions, especially in these big time games in the SEC, you got to be able to understand that they're doing that for a specific reason. So I think that, that also goes back to, Coach Ron Roberts and Armstrong with creating a lot of these different packages, understanding the benefits of the skill sets of what players that you have in what positions, understanding who you need to have in on second down, who you need to have in on third down, third and long, fourth down stop. There's all these different packages that you can create together to have guys in the right position to be able to showcase them at the highest level with the talent that they're best at.
In addition to the transfers, Derek, we've had obviously a lot of freshmen come into the program as well as some rising sophomores that are very young but developing. And you yourself, obviously, as a veteran, we need guys like you to mentor these guys and bring them up into the locker room. So talk about that experience of kind of mentoring younger guys. You mentioned Pup Howard, who, younger guy, only a year experience in the program, but also other freshmen, rising sophomores that you've seen develop in the program.
Yeah, so definitely for me personally, definitely Pup Howard, Miles Graham, Aaron Childs is just now getting here. So I think it goes back to just them understanding that standard, right? And it's them understanding that you need to do things the right way. You need to have the right time management, understand your priorities, and just, do the little things right. Show up on time, bring a pen and pencil to every meeting, have the right attire on, don't have your earrings, and don't have a watch on or a chain on during lifts. And I think that's all those little things that goes back to, our leaders that we have now and the older guys to be able to kind of set that as the precedence of what you need to do. Understanding that if an older guy is doing something the wrong way, you're going to see these younger guys come in and do it the wrong way as well. So us being able to do things the right way, and then not only that, if they see a younger guy doing it the wrong way, be able to check them, right? Get after them and say, hey, you can't do that, or hey, we're going to make you run or whatever after practice. That's the thing that we've kind of added in as some of the older guys. Checking some of the younger guys and giving them like disciplinary things. I think that should be in every team. It doesn't always have to be a younger guy or an older guy going to a younger guy. It can even be a younger guy going to an older guy. When just having that disciplinary things when you don't do things the right way. So I think that's what creates a culture boost, is understanding that we're all here for the same goal. We're all here for the same reasons. It doesn't matter your age. It doesn't matter where you came from. We're all playing on the same team. It doesn't matter if you're 17 or 23, 24. Doesn't matter. We're all here to play on Saturday. And when you score a touchdown or you make a big time sack, they're not going to say, oh, that was a 17 versus a 24-year-old. That's going to say, hey, that was a Florida Gator that made that amazing play. So I think that's when guys start to realize and understand, the right priorities and what we need to get done to be able to be successful.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear just from your answers alone, if nothing else, that you're very well primed to be a leader on this 2024 Gator football team, and bringing the whole conversation back full circle. We've talked about the results in the past couple of years. We've talked about the missing ingredients that we believe that, that you and us believe that we have found. Talked about there being a different field to 2024. And I know that as a current player, you're going to be programmed to believe the Gators can compete and should compete for a national title, because every player is supposed to be programmed to believe that. So I'll ask it this way. The Florida Gators will reach the college football playoff if blank happens.
So I'm actually really happy you asked that. It wasn't worded in the way that I thought you were going to ask it, because we were actually going to get to that question in the Feinbaum show, and we didn't, because we started talking about a little bit of the GatorMade stuff. But here's what I'm going to say: we play 7 games in the swamp. Everyone asked that question about the schedule and who we're playing. We play 7 games in the swamp. I think we travel a total of actually going out of the state of Florida twice. That's huge for a lot of the Florida players and the Florida team in general. I think people are now starting to underestimate playing in the swamp with 90,000. When big time teams come to the swamp, it gets pretty loud in there. It gets pretty hectic. And a lot of games can they will turn over into our direction. So I think that's the big missing piece that a lot of people are seeing. So as long as, we're putting all the pieces together, we're doing all the right things. We're doing the right things on and off the field. So, I'm really excited for what we've put together and what we're going to continue to put together with the strength program, the on the field program, just overall guys, just building a relationship and going the right direction. The Florida Gators have been doing everything the right way, right? We've put it all together. We've been laying down the foundation for the past 2 years. It's now finally time to see some results. So playing 7 games in the swamp, you can't ask for anything better. Staying in the state of Florida to play a lot of its games, you can't ask for anything better. I mean, you look back in the past, we had some struggle playing away games. I mean, everybody knows that. We struggled playing away. So I think, having 7 games in the swamp, I'm going to keep harping on that every single time. That's going to be the benefit for the Florida Gators this year, playing at home. And then also just that goes back to everything else I said previously with, all these new pieces that we've added and building on that foundation for us to be successful.
Love that answer. That's all. And that all sounds like the profile of a leader. Final question, Derek. Derek Wingo, and going along with that same fill in the blank format. Derek Wingo is a better linebacker, a better football player, and a better teammate now than he was when he first came to Florida in 2020 because blank.
I would say 100% that goes from maturity level, understanding, knowing your priorities, having good time management, being a leader, and also just, finally being able to kind of just listen to your guys, listen to your teammates, listen to your coaches, listen to past players, understanding what it takes to, be successful, not just as Derek Wingo, but as a defense and as a team as a whole. Talking to your guys, understanding where everyone's head at, being in the right mental capacity, and then just staying healthy. That's all when it comes down to. I had a lot of shoulder issues. They were finally able to fix all that and get that right. Finally, last year we were able to kind of figure it out. Giorgio and Tony and Paul and and Donovan and all those guys have done an amazing job with my rehab, and been able to kind of keep me going with it throughout the entire season, be able to keep it strong. My numbers are already higher than what they were last year during the season, with kind of where my strength's at for my shoulder and everything like that. So, just being able to stay healthy, having a positive mindset, being able to be a good leader, and just continue to be physical and be a guy that can be vocal on this team.
Well, Derek, we couldn't thank you enough for all of your time this evening, answering all of our questions, giving us some insights into the program, as well as your experience as a Gator. Obviously, we hope the Florida Gators are successful on the field this year, but we certainly wish you a ton of success on and off the field. So please, Gator fans, go ahead and give Derek a follow on all the social media. And we thank you, Derek, for all of your time here tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Chris and Neil. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Derek. See you in the swamp.
See you in the swamp.
And that about wraps it here for another episode of the All Kinds Weather Forecast. Please like, rate, and review the show. Leave a comment down below. We'd love to hear how we're doing. Thank you again, Derek. And until next time, go Gators.